Thank you, Rita. Coming up on tonight's South Today. 17-year-old Izzy took her own life. Her mum says her GP and others could have done more to intervene.
There was a duty of care. I don't know how anybody could watch a minor walk out a door without knowing 100% she's safe.
The NHS trusts involved say they've since carried out internal reviews. Also coming up in tonight's programme. A call for all new homes to have solar panels built in. Why cash could still be king, how buying with banknotes could save you money.
Smith got a great, oh God, good shot from finishes then. Ramirez fires back.
And Bournemouth boxer Chris Billam-Smith left broken and bruised after defeat in Saudi Arabia. Good evening, I'm Anjana Gadgil. Welcome to the programme. The mother of a Berkshire teenager who took her own life says she can't understand why she wasn't told that her daughter planned to kill herself. 17-year-old Izzy Phipps died at her home in Cookham in April last year. She'd been studying at a school in Gloucester and had told a GP there about her suicidal thoughts. But attempts to alert her home mental health crisis team failed because of an error over who could make the referral. A coroner ruled that not telling Izzy's parents contributed to her death. James Ingham reports.
I was scared of pretty boys and starting conversations, so all my friends are turning green.
Izzy Phipps was a much-loved teenager, a girl with huge energy and a passion for life.
She was very likeable, talked to anybody. People like that she was just warm, funny, open, very popular, massive rugby fan from an early age.
Izzy had been heavily involved in rugby all her life, playing for Maidenhead, then Reading, and touch for England under-18s. But she was struggling with her mental health, and age 16 was prescribed the antidepressant Prozac. Izzy left Berkshire to do her A-levels after being selected for a place at a rugby academy run through Hartpury College in Gloucester. There, a GP prescribed a new drug, duloxetine, which, as a side effect, has made patients suicidal.
She's still a junior, and my experience with Izzy previously with CAMS was family involvement is paramount because you're a constant, you know them best. So to prescribe a medication like that and not tell the family just doesn't make sense.
One Friday in April last year, Izzy was in a desperate mental state. She went to her surgery and told a trainee GP that she planned to kill herself that weekend, back home in Berkshire. She said her parents would be away. The GP referred her to a crisis team, and a mental health nurse called Izzy. She said the same to her. The nurse then contacted Gloucestershire's Crisis Resolution and Home Treatment Team, which said it wouldn't be able to help as Izzy would be out of their area in Berkshire. So the nurse then called Berkshire's Healthcare Trust, which rejected her referral, saying it needed to come from a doctor. No one contacted Izzy's parents.
I can't understand why they wouldn't ring next of kin to make her safe.
Do you feel Izzy was let down?
Yeah, massively. There was a duty of care. I don't know how anybody could watch a minor walk out a door without knowing 100% she's safe.
After spending the Saturday with a friend watching rugby, Izzy did kill herself, sending a message to her family moments before.
Izzy sent a load of pictures. She loved family.
So she posted these photos on your family WhatsApp group with the message, "Will, always family."
Yeah.
She was thinking about you.
Yes.
Both Gloucestershire and Berkshire's mental health teams have carried out internal reviews. Berkshire Healthcare Trust said, "We have put in place processes to improve communication in cross-border referrals. including ensuring that a conversation between clinicians always takes place, where crisis support is requested by someone outside of the county.
I definitely feel like Izzy should be here. She was having a crisis. A lot of things could have been done better. Simple things, just make them safe. We all need that when we're at our lowest. Someone we love to just be there and say it's going to be okay. Izzy didn't get that.
Izzy Phipps' mum, Sarah, ending that report by James Ingham. And if you're suffering distress or despair and need support, including urgent support, a list of organisations that can help is available at bbc.co.uk/action line, or you can call for free to hear recorded information on 0800 066 066. The Salisbury Novichok inquiry has heard counter-terror police and health officials could have been better at sharing information about the risks to the public. Dawn Sturgis died after coming into contact with the chemical weapon hidden in a perfume bottle 4 months after a former Russian spy was poisoned with it in Salisbury. Dan O'Brien reports from the London hearing.
People around Salisbury and Amesbury will remember when Dawn Sturgis died, public health advice at the time when it came to anything you'd find on the ground: if you didn't drop it, don't pick it up. It was issued because of the risk of finding something containing discarded nerve agent. But should that advice have been put out 4 months earlier, after the first Novichok incident, well before Dawn's death? That question is what much of today's evidence has been focused on. Did police issue enough warning to public health officials? Did public health officials act on those warnings appropriately? And would any of it have made any difference at all? Have a listen to a bit of this exchange between the lead counter-terror police officer and one of the lawyers representing Dawn's family, Jesse Nichols.
We've done all of the proportionate and reasonable searches we think are appropriate, and we haven't found it. So there is an ongoing risk that it's out there.
Well, that's not a conversation I ever recall having with PHE, no, not in those explicit terms.
And not with the CMO either.
But we always made it clear, had we not found Novichok, we were always concerned that it was still there, and that was certainly a factor in all of our activity.
This afternoon we also heard from the Chief Scientific Advisor to the Home Office at the time, Professor Sir John Aston. He acknowledged there could be panic caused if they put out a warning about discarded Novichok without having the full scientific facts available to them. He also led a lessons learned exercise into the incident and found that the communication could have been better between the police and public health officials, but ultimately he said no mistakes were made in regards to public health that would have made any material difference to what happened. Public Health England will answer questions on this later in the week. Dan O'Brien for BBC South Today in central London.
A campaign's begun to help people spot warning signs that a child's being exploited by criminal gangs. Police in Wiltshire hope it will help reduce serious violence, including knife crime. Audrey Diaz reports.
People are up against if they're carrying knives.
Reese was just 8 when he was recruited by a gang. What began as a promise of small gifts turned into a decade of violence and crime.
I wasn't being really looked after or watched, and I'd spend all of my time out in society, and it led to basically being given some money and a football in exchange to looking after something, and then slowly progressed to trafficking drugs around the area.
Reese left it all behind when he was 19, but gangs are still hard at work trying to recruit more young people.
We're in 2024 and the same thing happening is what happened to me, what happened to my friends. It is a lot worse now because the element of respect on the street has gone. Knives, acid, a lot of this high-level violence is still prevalent.
Now working as a youth mentor, he's assisting Wiltshire Police on a new campaign to help parents spot the warning signs that their child is being exploited.
Every child is vulnerable to this type of exploitation, and the perpetrators of these awful offences are very manipulative and they're very clever, and they know how to target young people, really focusing on their vulnerabilities around wanting to be popular or wanting to have the latest technology, wanting to have the latest clothes. And that means that they are able to really befriend a young person and then get them into a point where they can manipulate, exploit and put pressure on them to commit offences on their behalf.
by using all of the resources that we have, we can better help people that are at risk, and we can better identify where their risk is and support people that have been affected by this.
The police say family and friends are best placed to spot the signs. Their campaigns will see visits to schools using more stories like Reese's to break the cycle of gang crime.
Some schools and businesses in Berkshire and South Oxfordshire had to close today after a water pipe burst in Sonning Common. A bottled water station set up at Tesco in Henley-on-Thames ran out of supplies earlier. Thames Water has shut off the network while engineers fix the leak in an area of woodland. It says some customers are now getting their water back. You're watching BBC South Today. Still to come this Monday evening, Alexis will be here with the weather for the week ahead. And we arrive at the final destination for a railway carriage, now being used as a restaurant. When was the last time you went to a cash point? You're probably having to think about it because we just don't carry money around like we used to. Cash has been in decline for years. A reluctance to handle anything during COVID didn't help. But there's been a bit of a bounce back because of living costs. And one expert from Surrey University says we still have a special connection with coins and notes. Here's Bryony Leyland.
The way we use money has been changing for some time, but it's also influenced by specific events. Last year, more than 60% of all payments were made with a debit or credit card, with contactless payments surging among younger adults. Cash is still in second place, used for 1 in 8 payments. Just a decade ago, it was half of all spending. But for some, it's become more important. 1.5 million people, so they mainly use cash. That's up from just under 1 million the year before. Speaking to shoppers in Eastleigh, we found plenty of cash fans who say it helps them to manage their money.
I can control it better. If I've got money in my pocket, I will spend it. If I haven't got money, I won't spend it.
With a card, I'm tempted to spend more than I actually can afford, so that's why I stick to cash.
With cash and growing up used to cash, you can see what you're doing with your money more.
Kids today, they don't know the value of money with a card. You give them 20 quid to go to the shop and get sweets. They come back with their change. With their bank card, they don't know what they're spending. So it's, yeah, cash is 100%, it needs to stay.
Researchers from the University of Surrey have been looking into how and why we spend money. They've concluded that the physical nature of cash, the fact we can touch and feel it, has a big influence on us. Spending with a card just doesn't hurt in the same way.
With cash money, what happens is we do feel a psychological ownership, and because of that ownership, when we are giving out, parting with, we feel a bit of pain. Cashless payments are not physical, so when we lose this connection, we tend to spend, and without understanding, without consciously knowing how much we have spent.
However we pay for things, the cost of living crisis has affected our choices. Retailers say the average transaction is now just over £22. That's £2 lower than the year before. But we are making more smaller payments, so we're not necessarily spending less overall. For example, doing several small trips to the supermarket rather than one big shop. It's a tactic to help us manage our budget. The trade body for banking says it's important to have access to cash, but also up-to-the-minute information about what's in our bank account.
A great deal of investment has been put into mobile-based banking over the last few years, with much more user-friendly apps and far more functionality, so people are now able to access their bank accounts on the go. Other people need to ensure that they have access to cash, that they can get the cash that they rely on to help them manage their budgets, and that cash is available in the place where they live.
So it's clear cash still has a significant part to play in our life. The same can't be said for cheques. They accounted for just 1 in 500 transactions last year.
By 2030, you won't be able to buy a new petrol or diesel car in the UK. Ministers say they need to force the issue to help the environment. But when it comes to new build houses, the government appears to be saying that installing solar panels will be optional, not required. That's prompted questions from campaigners. Ellie Cleverly reports from Oxfordshire.
They're generating a really good amount of electricity. You know, even on a gloomy November afternoon, we're still getting 68, 70 odd what's being generated.
Suzanne decided to add 14 solar panels to her Victorian terrace house over a decade ago.
We put the solar panels on when we were having building work done, and we did it because it was super easy for us to do at that point. And I do just think if you've got the opportunity to be integrating solar panels into any design work that you're doing for a new house, it just seems like a no-brainer.
And it seemed the Labour Party agreed with her, because soon after the election, the Energy Secretary Ed Miliband said that there'll be a rooftop revolution, so the more houses could look like this, in the aim of reducing our carbon footprint and hopefully reducing bills. Ministers are preparing to publish regulations for new builds that would mean all homes are built to be low carbon. However, these plans don't make solar panels mandatory. Instead, they only encourage builders to put them on.
If I was to buy a new house, why wouldn't I always buy the latest technology? If you want to buy yourself a new phone, you very rarely do you buy an old model. If you knew a new model's coming out, you wait a month or two.
3 years ago, Stuart and Joan bought this eco house, which is built to be as low carbon as possible.
Our energy bills are incredibly low. They're £100 a month on average through the year. For 5 months of the year, we are a power station and we put more power into the grid than we use in the house. That's all the way through the summer.
This is a small estate designed to be low carbon, but this type of home is a rarity.
When we were buying, we were travelling from Bedfordshire to Oxfordshire, so doing that journey. And there were loads of new houses going up. And the thing that really gets me is those houses were going up with no solar panels on, with gas central heating. They're being sold as family homes for young families. And then in a few years' time, those young families have got to change their heating system from gas to something else. They're the ones that have got to pay the cost, not the builder, not anybody else, and it's wrong.
Local areas are trying to tackle climate change. The Low Carbon Hub is one of the few groups who do this.
Our business model means that we have to spend our profit on community benefit, and we spend that money on helping communities to reduce their carbon and make the transition to a zero carbon energy system.
Their aim is to reach net zero before 2050.
We need to get to the point where it will be as unthinkable not to have solar on a household roof as it used to be not to have a chimney.
Now, Lewis Coombs joined me with the sport. And Lewis, things didn't go quite according to plan on Saturday night.
Yeah, we were hoping for a different result, weren't we? But unfortunately, it was defeat at the weekend. Bournemouth boxer Chris Billam-Smith has said his pride and body are both hurting after losing his WBO World Cruiserweight title to his Mexican opponent Zurdo Ramirez in Saudi Arabia on Saturday night. It's emerged that Chris broke his right thumb, fractured his left hand, as well as suffering a deep cut above his eye early on in the contest that ended with a comprehensive points defeat. BBC Sports' Dan George was there.
There's that straight left hand and then the combination gets through.
Throughout the contest, it was pretty tough to see Chris Billam-Smith take the amount of punishment he did. Although he started the fight really well in the first round with a couple of really nice shots, ultimately the Mexican Gilberto Ramirez came back.
Gets spin on his punches.
And he was really, really good, accurate and devastating with the blows that he dealt to Billam-Smith.
The timing of the shots, and now he's really beginning to put the combinations together.
Chris Billam-Smith cut over his left eye early on, and that cut getting worse as the fight went on. And towards the later rounds, it looked as if Ramirez almost had a landslide decision. It was all in his favour, and he was winning this fight comfortably. But Billam-Smith continued to dig in. He stayed on his feet.
That's good work for Billam-Smith.
He carried on fighting right until the final bell.
And both of them just stand and swing, and then they fall into each other's arms.
Where ultimately he came up just short.
He's just such a warrior, and every time he fights, you come away just feeling proud to even be associated with him, inspired by him. And that's the same outside of the ring as inside of the ring. And yeah, I think dared to be great tonight. already become world champion, already defended it, already achieved so much. Yeah, I couldn't be prouder of him. He just kept coming, gave us an absolutely great fight, and him and his family should be very, very proud.
Well, after the fight, Chris was taken straight to hospital where he stayed for around 8 hours, so understandably wasn't available for interview. But he later posted to social media saying, "I'm hugely disappointed I couldn't get the job done. I lost to the better man, and that's tough to take. I gave it everything I had on the night. Both my pride and my body are extremely sore today. I'm now looking forward to spending quality time with my family and letting my body recover." And we wish Chris well. Now, Southampton defender Taylor Harwood-Bellis says it was a dream come true to score in his senior England debut. The 22-year-old scored with a header just 17 minutes after coming on as a second-half substitute in England's 5-0 victory over the Republic of Ireland. Elsewhere this weekend, what about this for a goal from Swindon's Dan Butterworth, who waltzed his way through the Accrington Stanley defence to score a superb solo effort that snatched a point for the Robins in a 2-2 draw. Elsewhere, Brighton women beat West Ham 3-2 at the Amex to stay third in the Women's Super League. The Seagulls were 2 goals up at the hour mark, but with the scores level just 10 minutes later, it was Reading-born Fran Kirby who made it 5 wins from 8 this season. While in the Women's Championship, Southampton conceded a 99th minute goal to draw 1-1 at Newcastle, and Portsmouth fell to another defeat. In basketball, Reading Rockets are through to the final of the Kit King Trophy after beating defending champions Derby Trailblazers 85-78 in a heated semi-final at Loddon Valley, despite being 13 points down at one stage. Victor Olarerin top scored with 26 points, and the Rockets will face Milton Keynes Breakers in the final in March.
It was a tough game, and it was obviously a double-header, so we had a game the day before, and obviously it's a tough team with 2 very, very big men. So we had to fight a lot and be really physical with them to stop them from getting the ball. But yeah, it was a real tough one. But it was a team performance as well. Like, everyone played well. Guys that came on the court, guys on the bench. So yeah, it was a really good game.
Yeah, great result for the Rockets. Got to wait till March though for the final.
Oh, that does seem too far away.
Yeah.
God, I hope no one gets injured before then.
Fingers crossed.
Lewis, thank you very much. Now, a railway carriage, which was built in America over a century ago, has reached its final destination as a restaurant in West Sussex.
The former dining car, named Princess Ina, ran the rails until the 1930s, when it then became part of a house.
It's now being moved to Petworth and been lovingly restored. And as Sean Killick reports, it will be in good company.
It looks the epitome of railway elegance and style from a bygone era of train travel. But in fact, this dining car, called Princess Ina, has only recently been fitted out as a restaurant. A new lease of life for a Pullman carriage that's been on quite a journey. It came from America in 1906 and ran on Southern Railway lines until being retired from service in 1934. It was then moved to Selsey, where dozens of former carriages were repurposed as beachside bungalows. Princess Ina spent nearly 90 years as the main structure of a house there. But 3 years ago, it was lifted up from its seaside setting and transported 22 miles to the old railway station at Petworth, where husband and wife team Blair and Jenny had the dream of turning it into a restaurant. But as Jenny explained, they first had a major restoration job.
My husband and Paul and Colin from over the road all got together and just stripped the carriage back. So as much as the carriage wasn't in too bad condition, it did need completely stripping back. All the woodwork needed stripping back. All the LED lights up at the top needed cleaning. So this is the main part of the carriage.
Wow.
All the woodwork has been lovingly restored by my husband Blair and Paul. Some of the items have been French polished.
And also the chairs look pretty impressive as well. They're all new as well.
So the chairs, they've all been remade. We did have an original Pullman chair, which we copied. And a chap called Christo, who works at the Bluebell, was able to remake it. And the maquette was put on by the Heritage Trimmers. Very difficult to get hold of maquette. Not many places make it anymore. We actually had to have it made in Turkey from a little sample that we had from an original piece from about 100 years ago.
The railway station at Petworth closed in 1966. Jenny and Blair now run a bed and breakfast business here in old Pullman carriages which have been converted into bedrooms.
We've got some very, very special Pullman carriages here. So we've got 5 Pullman carriages. There are only 100 in existence. And Princess Ina itself dates from 1906, so she's quite rare. There's no other one from 1906. We've taken advice from Pullman experts around the country. We've got all the books, and we'll sit there of an evening looking through. We've tried to be as authentic as possible. Pullman carriages are first-class carriages, so we want this to be a first-class experience for anyone that comes.
For Jenny and Blair, Princess Ina is undoubtedly the jewel in the crown. Sean Killick, BBC South Today, Petworth.
Oh, that would be a beautiful place to have dinner.
That's nice.
Should go and check it out. I'm not asking you on a date.
Good.
Alexis is here now with the weather. How's it looking, Alexis?
Dig yourself out of that one, Anjana.
I'm trying.
Actually looking a lot colder. So this lovely picture of the autumn colour was photographed in West Sussex, and a little bit of sunshine first thing this morning in Donington, captured by Ralph. So through the course of today, we've seen that cloud build, we've seen the arrival of some heavy rain, and that rain is really going to stay with us on and off right the way through this evening, overnight tonight, and through the early hours of the morning. So a good deal of clouds expected tomorrow, maybe some brightness later on, but the chance of some wintry showers, a bit of a sleet or even the odd snow shower, with a weather system moving south across the region with that colder air digging in. So there will be some outbreaks of rain overnight tonight, could be heavy for a time, showers to follow, and a fairly brisk west to northwesterly wind. The cooler air starts setting in for northern parts during the second part of the night there. Temperatures will drop away to around 1 Celsius. For the coast, temperatures will be slightly higher, particularly down towards parts of Dorset, where we could see a low of 11 Celsius in double figures. Slowly but surely, that colder air starts nudging southwards. Showers for the south coast tomorrow. Then the bit of winteriness I was talking about, rain, even the odd snow shower, even a bit of sleet mixed in, will start transferring south and eastwards. Some brighter spells developing for northern areas. Now, these temperatures possibly temperatures we'll have at the start of the day tomorrow, but by the afternoon and evening, temperatures will be a lot lower, possibly around 4 or 5 Celsius. So a cooler end to the day with that cold air starting to kick in. Here's the coastal forecast. The winds on the inshore waters are northerly or northwesterly 4 to 6. The sea state is occasionally rough, so the winds are quite strong through the day tomorrow, especially for exposed coastal areas. The weather showers becoming mainly fair. So as we head through the course of tomorrow night, the cloud will disappear, the skies will clear, the winds will fall slightly lighter. There could be the odd wintry shower for western areas, but generally most places will stay dry, and potentially we could have a frost with temperatures in many areas dropping below freezing. That's where the really cool air starts to really dig in. So lows tomorrow night, -1, -2, even -3 Celsius. A good deal of sunshine can be expected on Sunday, that northerly influence bringing the colder air in. The winds are slightly lighter, but as we head towards the weekend, a few good days of dry, sunny weather before it turns wet and very quite windy, with area of low pressure moving in and the temperatures recover slightly above the seasonal average. Anjana.
Thank you, Alexis. So we should enjoy the cold, sunny days during the week.
Exactly.
Thank
yes.
you. Sophia Seth's here tonight with the late news at 10:30, but that's it from us. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.